Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Alex and Things podcast. I'm your host, Alex Wing. What's going on with y'all, man? I know it's been a minute since we've been back here on the podcast, but I am really delighted to be back. And I hope everybody's been staying safe, taking care, and doing their thing. As always, man, I'm really happy to be back, man. Like, there are a lot of reasons for this episode coming out during the time that I did, whether it was just life working in mysterious ways or whether by design, who knows? All I know is that when it comes to being on brand, I feel like that kind of aligns with like how I am as a person. So like, because 11 is this is our 11th conversation on the podcast, and this week marks the 1 year anniversary of this podcast and its existence. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that has been showing love and support, not just to the podcast, but like showing love to everything else that I have going on as well. I'm trying to continue to put out content, not just here on the podcast, but with my YouTube channels, and my Twitch streams as well, along with the other things that I have eventually coming too. So, but yeah, man, our 11th conversation on the podcast, like it's really crazy. 1 year. I couldn't have even imagined making it this far genuinely and like still being like as committed, still having that same fire and like that drive and like that hunger, that passion to like keep on sharing my messages, using different mediums to like express myself and like just continuing to like um express myself and manifest myself in kind of what I call my creative toolbox so I can get other people to listen to me, share life with me, and just be there with me as we're chopping it up and basically sharing life on the things that mean something to us and things that can like bring us closer as people and unique individuals. So, but yeah, y'all, um like I mentioned with this podcast episode coming out when it is during the week of it being 1 year, I did want to talk about where we've been and where we're headed and kind of just other things that kind of tie into like why all of this just feels like, it's appropriate. And it kind of is just like what it is, you know what I mean? So summer's been very interesting because I did get into a new position where I'm back to working with kids, which kind of gave me a lot of anxiety over the summer, but I pushed through it and everything's been okay, like mentally, physically. It's kind of been like a normal roller coaster here and there. But the challenge, not personally, the challenge like from a creative venture standpoint, it was very difficult to like to distribute my energy, time, and effort. Like it was difficult to distribute my energy and effort and all that stuff into all the different things I have going on and be consistent with it because there's so many things that I have to work on in terms of like recording, editing, and all that good stuff. And it just got to a point where like schedule wise, I was very happy. I was having a lot of challenges trying to keep up with like um, work, and then like my creative work, and then like my personal work, which is like sleeping and like just being free of everything. But yeah, man, like I mentioned before, um, it's it's really insane, and it's a good feeling to have gone past a certain amount of time or whatever the case may be, and still be reminded of how committed and determined you are when it comes to your ambitions and your goals. So, which is why like still being here on the podcast and still going strong on like my YouTube channel and my Twitch streams and all that good stuff that we still have coming. It really makes me feel good and it reminds me of how deep I am in my commitment and like how truthfully committed I am to like what it is that I want to pursue with everything it is that I do want to eventually get to in my life. So, and in our path as well, as people that have connected in one, two, maybe more ways than that. So, but yeah. That kind of leads us into where we're headed. And pretty much all I have to say is there are more methods and forms of expression that I do want to eventually like put out there. And I can't get into all of it specifically, but there are more things that I definitely want to do, like with the podcast specifically and with the YouTube channel specifically, to just make my entire, like I mentioned, my creative toolbox, to make that a better environment for everyone that wants to swing by and listen to what we have to say and maybe share some, share some love, share their own perspective, all that good stuff with us. So that we can become even more connected and learn more about ourselves and the world around us. So, but yeah, y'all. The main thing that we're going to be talking about kind of center around like pretty much this theme of like learning, connecting, and kind of evolving. When I'm talking about like where we've been and where we're headed, all that good stuff. So, but yeah, y'all. A couple of the main things that we're going to be talking about today revolve around transparency, kind of just being honest, being you, and also why storytelling is just really enjoyable to me and why we're still doing it, and kind of just reflecting on everything that has been this journey of creative expression. So yeah, y'all, without further ado, let's get right into it. So something that's really important to me, which is kind of the case with almost every project that I put out, my podcast, every Twitch stream, every YouTube video, whatever the case may be, something that's very important to me is like the way in which somebody like, or the degrees of honesty and transparency in which someone expresses themselves or they present themselves to you with, because it kind of sets the stage for how far both sides are willing to take so and so relationship. And most times, at least in this present day and age, with the ways in which people communicate, mainly from digital spaces, it really doesn't set the best stage for when you're eye to eye with somebody, because there's nothing like connecting with somebody like physically and like from heartbeat to heartbeat, eye to eye type thing, because you can't really replicate that environment when you're behind a screen all the time. And especially when you're not just behind the screen, but when you're not even being honest, or like you're not even giving yourself or the other person a chance to demonstrate how far it is y'all want to take so and so relationship. So that's kind of my thing that I've learned and gathered from like being in all these different spaces, trying to connect with other people and just do things that I love, such as, making videos, playing games, all while trying to, come together with other people. I've learned that it not only comes with it not only comes with me just trying to creatively express myself, but it's just me, like I mentioned, trying to use these different mediums to build those deeper, more genuine connections with other people, showing how much I truly care about that process of relationship building and connecting on levels that don't often get reached because of things like transparency and honesty and those intangibles that you can't really make up, you can't really fake, if that's the right word to put it. But yeah, man, and through storytelling, through being in these different spaces, it's really helped me cherish what it means to like come closer to other people and have friends and all that good stuff. Because I remember there was a time in my life where I did throw around that term, friends, even family, and you kind of make a mistake of getting too far ahead of yourself and overextending, which is kind of one of my um not my best, it's not one of my best strengths. I tend to give a lot of myself. I overextend, I overthink, and that often it hurts me more than it hurts other people, because I put like 110% into whatever it is that I'm doing, only to be met with a lack of return on investment, or just um, a lack of genuine reciprocation, which is a pretty common experience for a lot of people nowadays. So that's why I really, when I speak, when I present myself, I really try to leave people with like the best reminder possible of like who I really am and like what I'm about, all that good stuff. Because it's not often you get to go around and listen to people that you know or you like talk, present themselves, and cherish it. You know what I mean? because people don't really take that time to build those genuine bonds with other people. Whatever the case may be, who knows? But this is exactly why I want to further work on, everything it is that I've going on, because I've met so many fantastic people and I don't want to stop. So you know what I'm saying? That's what we're gonna do here, y'all. And speaking of connecting deeper with people, this part of the conversation just it reminds me of like something that I told myself when I was learning about like learning to trust people. If if I can build a really deep rooted belief in who it is that I'm meeting or getting to know more, then it'll really, like I mentioned earlier, it'll really set the stage for our relationship to strengthen and flourish over time, because we're presenting ourselves in a way that it really shows we're here to, keep it 100, be real, and just be you. Because anything else after that, I mean, anything else like that's not that. Who really had, I mean, I bet you there are people out there, but like, who really had the time and the energy for being, um, for not being real, not being themselves, not being true. So I don't know, man. But speaking of deep rooted beliefs and connecting with other people, this part of the conversation did make me think about a couple of shows and movies that I've watched. One being the Naruto movie with which one was it? It was not the last. It was Naruto. Or it was Naruto Boruto the movie. So I don't want to spoil any of these shows and movies, but in that movie, one child to a particular parent who was very busy kind of never got to see so and so parent. So they never really got to build that deep rooted connection with them. And like every time they would see so and so parent, it would just feel like not genuine. And in the meantime, they were speaking to or bonding with another parent who had a unique connection with so and so parent. So said child, in bonding more with another parent that wasn't actually his parent, had a more strengthened and more real bond with so and so parent, which kind of caused that other parent who so and so child built the bond with to have to take, I don't want to say extra measures, but take a step forward to help so and so child reflect on how truly amazing like so and so parent actually was, because of the way that they kind of established a relationship that was there, but he just never had, or so and so parent never had the time to truly express like what so and so child meant to them. So there was a scene in that movie. I can't say it right now because I don't want to spoil it, but I'll probably talk about it in another video or podcast episode. But that's pretty much where like my joy for like building a deep trust and building a strong connection with other people really comes from, because like some people really care about like um those deep rooted ties, man. Like, and the reason that that example was unique was because of the relationship between those two parents, if that makes sense. Hopefully that came out, hopefully that was presented correctly and in a clear way, because I didn't want to like give it away, because there's another show that I watched that made me think about that kind of similar situation. There's a show called Little Fires Everywhere, and I watched it, and it was a very good show, very very good show. And I don't want to spoil it either, but there were two kids who bonded with people that were also outside of their own family, and their relationships with those parents that weren't theirs, it got to the point where like it affected like their own personal situations with their own actual parents, to the point where like their original parents had to like reflect and like take a step back and analyze the degrees of honesty and transparency that they presented their child with in their time of relationship building, it caused them to reflect so that they can like go back and rekindle the light in their own relationship with their child so that they can live a healthier life, have healthier relationship with one another and all that good stuff. So that's kind of where this part of the conversation stems from. Just understand how important it is to really touch somebody, not physically but like touch somebody spiritually and emotionally, so that when the time arrives you can have somebody that's there for you when you may need it, and just somebody that's there to just share meaningful messages and just talk to you as trustful friends, trustful beings, because that's at the end of the day, that's really what we are. Like, we're beings that are meant to connect with each other one way or another. I wish there was an easier way to say it, but like, we should all as humans be connected, but because of the way that things tend to divide folks, it is something that is a challenge for a lot of us in different ways. So that's definitely a thing. And like I mentioned, y'all, um, storytelling is something that I really, really, really enjoy, but I never truly realized it until like I sat down and I talked to myself about it, and now I'm talking to like y'all about it as well. But what storytelling means to me is it's just an organic process of getting to know yourself and getting to know other people. Like, it doesn't get any more like natural than that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that first conversation you have with a friend that you really like, or a person that you really like, because you're trying to figure out like, what is this person about? What is it that I can get from this person on our first interaction, conversation, whatever the case may be. And it also kind of helps with growing your bond with somebody too, because what do you do when you're trying to get closer with somebody or grow with somebody? You got to share some kind of story, whether it's like the most descriptive story ever, or you have the most complex life ever. That's great. Whether you have the most bland or simple life ever, like, that's cool too, because all stories, they exist on the spectrum, and the degree to the degrees of craziness that your story may have, like, it's cool. It doesn't really matter, because like, everybody has their own story that they identify with. And that's kind of like my thing with being in this space where I can put myself out there in different ways to connect with other people. The thing about that is really unique is that I don't say I understand everybody, because I don't, and I don't wish to, even though I would love to, because that means I would be able to help more people. It just gives me a greater opportunity to, like I mentioned, come closer to other people and grow more with a lot of people in different ways, and in ways that you wouldn't normally get to, because the ways in which people communicate often are stagnated with a lot of awkwardness and um, other intangible things that don't really help things such as relationships and communication and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, man, some of the things I also want to talk about when it comes to why we're here with our storytelling and creative ventures. Um, I want to talk about why I cherish my two favorite athletes the way that I do. Like, they're a big part as to why they're a big reason as to why I'm here now, and still, Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning. Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning, the way that they played and the way that they carried themselves, they were so similar. And it's very crazy how like their on the field impact and their off the field impact, it was they're very like reminiscent of one another because of their relentless meticulousness that they use to stay in touch with the details of the game and their commitment to their craft. Because you always hear those stories about athletes being awake at like 3 4 a.m. and going to the gym or the weight room, whatever the case may be, so they can get work in before their teammates and all that stuff. I would hear those stories all the time about like Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning, and that stuff really inspired me to like carry myself in a relentless way as well, and have a have an aware meticulousness about how I approach like my craft and what it is that I do. Because that like, if nothing else, like people always say, actions always speak a lot louder than words. And it's really crazy how it all works, man. Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning. God rest Kobe's soul, man. I miss him so much. I wish um I would have been able to understand this a little bit earlier, but it's all good, man. Storytelling is just so fascinating. And the way that I found out how like Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning were so similar was when they retired and they still kept on pursuing like creative ventures that helped them stay in touch with their audience, and like it kept their impact as alive as it was when they were like still playing in their playing days, but they were retired. So I was like, wow, these guys just they just love impacting like the next generation, and like they love sharing messages that will help like grow the next generation. Like it'll feed knowledge into the next generation, like it'll stay in touch with the next generation for generations after generations, hopefully. So it was just like that stuff really hit me, and I guess it really dawned on me like during the pandemic when I had time to like sit back and reflect on what I really want, where I've been, and like I mentioned, where we want to go with things. So for us to be here on the 1 year mark of the podcast, and for it to be episode 11, 11 being my favorite number, I don't know, like there's a lot of symbolism in that, because like I mentioned, like the podcast isn't the only thing that I'm working on to um, not just grow what I know about myself in the world, but it's just growing what I understand about connecting with other people. So those two guys, I I credit them so much with in a lot of different ways when it comes to like me being here and me being courageous enough, me being willing enough to even like put myself out there in ways that will try and tie me together with um, the future or the present as well. So, and speaking of the future or the present and or the future, something that does really make me happy is the fact that like while I still do work with kids, it's really cool to see how like you impact kids and like how they respond to your presence and like what you've done for them. It's a really cool feeling when kids like they talk to you about what they mean to you, or like they give you like gifts about what they mean to you, or like they let you know one way or another what you meant to you, what you've meant to them. And as someone that literally kind of where that's where I want my impact to be. Just connecting with people, giving people a reason to talk to somebody, connect with somebody on like a deep, genuine level. That stuff really means so much to me, because that's something that I wish I had when I was a child, a free spirited, loose, just erratic child that definitely wishes I could have been a little bit more level headed in terms of like where I want to put my energy and my time, rather than like homework and um, math problems and sitting around not doing much with my creative intuition and or possible creative intuition, but just in general my visions and my dreams and how I want to manifest them. But yeah, man, that kind of thing when it comes to having inspirations, it really helps me feel like I don't know if I'm the right I don't know if I'm on the right path, but I just feel like this path is like meant for me in terms of like presenting myself in this toolbox, this environment where people can not only see me in different ways, but connect with me in different ways. So that really means a lot to me, man. And that's why I really appreciate everybody's love and support for everything it is that I got going on, because it not only means a lot, but like there's a lot more than what meets the eye. So, but yeah, y'all, storytelling also, there's probably I don't want to say the most important thing, but there's definitely one of the elements that makes me cherish storytelling. When you're telling your own story, like I don't want to say no right or wrong, but it is your story and it is distinctive to you. It is unique to you and it is exclusively yours. So in that sense, you kind of just tell your story as your own. Nobody can take your voice away. Nobody can take your experiences away from you. Not even yourself. Your story is just your story. So that's why I really value what it is that I'm doing with sharing myself in different ways, because you never know who's gonna connect with you and find out that you're eerily similar, you're eerily different, or I mean, you're drastically different, or you find people that just genuinely like who you are, what you do, what you're about, da 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 da. So all of that stuff is what I'm trying to achieve in terms of like putting myself out there creatively when I'm talking about anime, talking about sports, talking about mental health, talking about well-being, business, psychology, whatever the case may be, my interests, my hobbies, whatever the case may be. And I have a lot of that on the way, slowly but surely. Um, you tell your story as your own, man. You eventually get lucky enough, like how I have, and you meet a lot of people that not only share similar morals, beliefs, or values, or whatever the case may be, but they want to be there with you on your journey, or how I say it, how I present it, our journey to growing and connecting with not just ourselves and each other, but the world around us. So yeah, y'all, it's kind of just in my nature. And there's actually a story I want to get to when it comes to nature. After I talk about one more person that has really, really, really been super present and super like genuine, just super be you, as the saying goes. I want to talk about Kyrie Irving and how he just continues to be proud and take a stand for what he truly believes in, no matter what the public perception may be. And it's funny because guess what my last episode of the podcast was about? Public perception. Um, uh, on the things that I love and in general, I believe. But Kyrie Irving just continues to. Oh, well, Kyrie Irving, he's one of the players that reminds me of Kobe Bryant in different ways, along with other guys as well. But like he's like one of the people that one of the guys that I recognize like before others, and just his way of speaking, the way he carries himself. Obviously, his talent, his game, that's a whole nother thing. But just Kyrie Irving as a person, one of my goals actually, if I was ever to get lucky enough, is to talk to Kyrie Irving, maybe on the podcast, or maybe just in like a sit down, like for a video or something. He is just somebody that just is so not just eloquent, but he is just so giving, and he's just hella wholesome as a person. He loves giving back. He loves being a servant to other people in terms of like giving back and being there for those in need. And I just feel like that doesn't really, I don't say that doesn't get talked about enough, but if there's anything that I've learned about Kyrie Irving is that he's bigger than the game. And it's funny that I'm actually recording this right after he went on Instagram Live and he talked about a lot of different things. One of which was talking about how people in this day and age, I'm not quoting him or anything, but this is kind of like what he mentioned when it comes to his like his current situation with like the NBA and stuff, all that kind of stuff. People definitely tend to get caught up in like the hoopla of like sports and entertainment like it's religion. And that's just something that really hit me deep, because like that's how I feel. That's how I felt the exact same way he did. And like it's weird because like you have open-minded individuals like him, and I like to think that I'm really open-minded and a deep thinker as well. Everybody just sees these athletes and these like larger than life figures as just people that do one thing and like, don't do anything else. And it's really crazy because it wasn't just like, for example, it wasn't just Kobe Bryant or Peyton Manning's like talent and like skill on the field and their habits that made me admire them as athletes, but it was the way that they carried themselves as athletes when they weren't playing, like, those things that they did off the field, those things that they did as regular people that made me like, truly fall in love with like who they were as like people, not just athletes. So being able to hear Kyrie like um express himself and talk about like how he feels about what he has going on, it really touched me in like a very unique spot, because like he is one of the athletes that I mentioned as my current favorite athletes in this day and age, because he is very outspoken about the things that he loves. And like I mentioned earlier, he doesn't let anyone take his voice from him. Nobody can. And Nobody can take away his morals or beliefs. But the thing about him is like he's someone that he not only loves basketball, but he loves serving others and impacting others in a positive way and in a helpful way. And that's kind of just what he was touching on when he was talking about all these different things and his current like status and all that stuff. Obviously, he doesn't want to throw away what he loves, like the game and stuff like that. But he saw it as an opportunity to like use his voice for kind of like the voiceless kind of thing. There are so many people that have been negatively impacted by what we've had going on in our world, and like he's helped out in so many different ways, like donating a lot of money, like being there for different groups, um, and supporting them in different ways. I can't even remember all the things he's done because he's done so many different things. And one of the things that he said that really resonated with me, I kind of mentioned a little bit before, but he did mention that like you can't really take away anybody's voice or their choices. Everyone has their own right to behave how they feel and act on what they believe and such, and behave on what they believe and all that stuff. But for him, he's gonna do what he does, and he wasn't trying to imply that like what he's doing is strictly something that he wanted to do, but there was circumstances that he felt, well, supposedly there were circumstances that he had been presented with that did not that ended up falling through pretty much. So that's why he's kind of in the predicament that he is now. But in being there in that spot, like in the position that he is now, not currently playing and all that stuff, and then saying what he said yesterday, he mentioned how like his purpose is a lot bigger than life itself. It's bigger than him itself, and he just wants to be there to serve and impact other people in having that platform, that voice, the resources that he does. So it's just very interesting as it is empowering, because like that's kind of exactly what someone like me feels when it comes to like being there for other people, like uplifting other people, like just being there to connect with other people when they feel like they have no one else to connect with. And Kyrie speaking up for a lot of people, I I'm pretty sure more than just himself and his family, because like he's done so many things for so many other people. He wants to find a way to not just stand firm on what he believes and what he loves, but he wants to continue to try and still impact people the way he does on the court by being a leader off of it. And obviously it's not the same way that I alluded to with Peyton Manning and Kobe Bryant, but like this is a lot bigger than like, the game itself. This is life, the very essence of life, you know what I mean? As human beings, as people with a single God-given body. Um, it's just something that I just find really admirable and reminds me of why like I love and respect him so much. And it just felt really good to see. And like now I'm able to bring it up a little bit on the podcast. I was just like, wow, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, life works in mysterious ways. You know what I mean? But sometimes maybe I'm just like a master designer behind the scenes and making things like happen the way that they do. So, but yeah, man, that's pretty much everything that I really, really want to talk about specifically. Episode 11, man. And to talk about Kyrie, he wears the number 11, which if anybody knows anything about me, man, I love Kyrie Irving. I love the number 11, and I love Kobe Bryant. I love Peyton Manning. I love storytelling. I love talking to you on the podcast. I love making videos, all that good stuff, man. So if y'all made it this far in the podcast, y'all already know what it is, man. I love and appreciate y'all so much, man. Share the podcast with your family, friends, your loved ones, especially if they're interested in what we're talking about. And also, in the meantime, hopefully y'all stop by my YouTube channel, my Twitch streams, and maybe older podcast episodes to catch up on where we've been. But like I mentioned, y'all, it has been a minute since we've been here, but we are here to celebrate 1 year by just continuing to share things that mean something to me hopefully means something to us and definitely means something to the world. So yeah, y'all, like I mentioned, thank y'all so much for all the love and support. Hopefully we can continue to ride this wave as we continue to get closer to not just one another, but that world around us. And I definitely want to continue to put out different projects soon, not just on the podcast, but on the YouTube channel, so I can continue to share stories with y'all in more than one way. You know what I mean? So this has been the Alex and Things podcast. Actually, there's one more thing that I did want to mention, y'all. When it comes to how do I put this? Representing myself and putting myself out there in this creative space, this storytelling space. Like I mentioned before, at the probably near the start of this episode, this conversation, like it is very difficult to exert my best and put my best into everything that I do sometimes, because sometimes it doesn't feel like it's enough. And this was probably the thing that I was going to say, but it is in my nature to like just keep on fighting, keep on chasing what it is that I love. And in this sense, like I definitely don't want to sell myself short or sell you guys either, because I definitely give it my best when it comes to like talking on the podcast, talking on videos, editing the pod, all that great stuff. But the main thing that I really want to put out there was we still here, we still moving, and we still trying to do our thing, just like what I always mentioned to y'all at the start of videos, podcasts, whatever. Um, there was the story about the turtle and the scorpion. I don't know if people have heard about this, but it's a very interesting story, and like it kind of like it makes me feel some type of way because of like what I feel like is just my deep rooted nature, the way that I just naturally carry myself innately. It kind of just is what it is. Like not that I can't fight it, but yeah, the story kind of goes like this. Um, all the animals are swimming around in the river or the pond or whatever, and then the turtle is swimming around. The turtle sees the scorpion struggling or whatever. So Scorpion is like to the turtle, "Can I get a ride?" Pretty much. And then the turtle was like, "Where's the logic in you getting a ride? Because you could just sting me while I'm riding you across the river or the pond." Um, and then the scorpion responded by saying, "I won't sting you because you're taking me across the river." And it was just a very telling story, because what happened pretty much in the end was the turtle accepts the scorpion. I mean, lets the scorpion on its back to take it across the river, and then because of an itch, a natural kind of like impulsive-ish kind of thing, the scorpion stings the turtle, and then they both drown. And then while they're drowning, the turtle said, "Why did you sting me? I thought you said we were gonna go across the river or whatever." And then the scorpion pretty much responded, "It's my nature." So it's just kind of like no matter the circumstances, your nature, your truest being, your truest form will kind of always find a way, good or bad. That probably wasn't like a super enlightening example or like the most brightest example, but it did mean something to me, because um I did find out about that story through watching one of my favorite childhood shows, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it has to do with nature, and it has to do with who you are at the core of your being. So, which is your nature, who you just are naturally, like without having to exert yourself and trying to be someone that you're not and all that different kind of stuff. So, but yeah, y'all, as always, I appreciate y'all for all the love and support. Thank y'all so much for um making this adventure a lot more fun than even I could have expected it to be. So, like I mentioned, y'all, hope to catch y'all on my YouTube channel sometime. Hope to catch y'all again on the podcast really soon. We'll definitely be back with some more episodes. And maybe even on my Twitch streams where you can catch me playing a whole bunch of different games. But yeah, y'all, hopefully we can keep on riding this wave like I mentioned. And this has been the Alex and Things podcast, our 11th conversation, man. Love and appreciate y'all, man. Until next time, everybody be easy, take care, continue to do your thing. Much love and peace, everybody.